Welcome back. So let's quickly look into the remaining factors.
Sapna is there, but I think कौन नहीं है अभी.
Anita hasn't joined yet.
Anita नहीं आई है. Anyway, क्या बोल रहे थे आप?
Let's quickly go through the factors, remaining factors, the four factors that are left. Yeah. Sapna, you have some reflection on the previous discussion?
Yeah, I was like kind of wondering about, what they said that you need to have certain principles or applied experiences, if you may call them that, or knowledge basically. Someone giving it to you, which is true in today's world because everything has become outsourced and we are too unauthentic. We are too much into unauthentic living. So most of my intuitive knowledge came when I went within and started trusting myself. Or this whole thing about liking or disliking, and when I was discussing my nephew's choices, what I did with my daughter was I used to be with her, and because I myself was a very intuitive eater right from the beginning, so just leave things around her. She just observed. That's my whole thing. How does a child learn? Because she would observe what I was eating, and I used to relish tomatoes and bananas silently, not trying to impress her, but on my own, that was my natural state of being. And during that her childhood, her infancy days, I noticed that she would have a liking towards a particular thing, and not really dislike, but the natural thing I'm talking. I'm not talking about cooked food, but there would be a certain, kind of not dislike very strong, but Ranigo, I don't want to eat this. And that observation led me to believe that maybe there is certain time and requirement within the organism for a particular kind of thing. Because there was no telling her that, you know, you have to eat this or you don't have to eat that. It was her very natural progression for her. So that I have been left wondering that when we prescribe, even in natural health science, or you eat this and you have an ashwagandha juice, or you have this and don't have that, I am many times left wondering. And recently, when I was talking to that same nephew, that he's developed some boils all over his body, and was told that it's some kind of fancy name and it's contagious or whatever. And the mother said, I cannot do so much for him, Auntie, the way you've done it. And I said, listen, you don't have to be hinsak. The whole principle is based on ahimsa. Let him choose. Give him choices. Let him choose. A banana is no good, better or bad than an apple. Let him choose. So this whole concept of, applied knowledge baffles me. But then again, they were right also that people don't know. We've become so, as a society, we've outsourced anything and everything. That basic being in touch with yourself is not there. And people sometimes need to be enlightened about it or given, like what you are conducting today. They need to be given a basic, like, look at this material. This is an idea. Accept it, reject it, do whatever with it. And most of the time, I've seen beautiful results with that. Because I am not the one who would want to, oh, you do this, or you do that, or don't do this, and don't do that. But then also, then I come in conflict with that you are too lenient. This way, so nobody will improve. But what I'm observing, I have an entire family of 25 people who slowly, because I've let them be, not enforced on them, they are like on their own, silently, quietly, peacefully, lovingly, choosing the right things for them, what they perceive as right for them at that particular time of life. My mother chose to go for medical treatment when she had cancer. She had very low vitality, and we found out very late because she hid it. And it was a choice she made. At that time, I was in conflict about not letting her do that because I had a choice or say in the matter. But then I realized that if this is what she wants and this is what she believes will cure her, of course, I did not let her do the chemotherapy or that aspect of it. But certain medical interventions, and then side by side, she was left eat. She wouldn't eat, so it was only juices or whatever. But one fine day, she wanted khichdi. I said, okay, fine. You want khichdi, and the way she relished it, I still am at so much at peace that I let her do it. I let her eat it, rather than beating myself up, oh, you can't do this, or it has to be a very natural and a very non-violent progression. And that in today's time, the hideousness, the addictions of psychological as well as physiological, mind blowing.
Yes, yes, yes.
Absolutely mind blowing.
Right. Yes, yes. Meaningful. So, continuing with the other factors, so now comes to the movement aspect. The movement, the very natural, effortless movement is a very designed aspect of our life, our existence. If suppose we are in jungles, we are subject to lot of natural threats, physical threats, and we are bound to move very sleek way. So and as a byproduct, we would have had effortless movement in a day-to-day life. So we can definitely look at ourselves, at our joints and spine. This joints and spine has got a special importance in nature cure protocols because of this movement aspect. Because the joints and spines are the basis of effortless movement. So the current sedentary lifestyle is highly ideated. For different ideas, we justify our sedentary lifestyle. And on the other hand, there could be obsessive exercise also to compensate the effortless movements. So these two ideated influences can be observed. And then whatever is left is the natural movement for us. So can we observe our movements? Can we dive deep into understanding the influence of ideas into our enhanced movements or restricted movements? The next factor is the sleep. Sleep is a very important factor because that's the basis of rest. During the sleep, yes, Sapna, you want to say something?
Regarding movement, there's this concept, there are various conflicting theories, I call them theories, for in natural hygiene and natural therapy also, about doing yoga or, doing weight training. The weight training is more mainstream, but even in certain natural hygiene practices, they say that yoga again is deliberate movement. And there's that unnatural turning and twisting of body. And on the other hand, we have this whole philosophy of yoga, which starts the Ashtanga yoga kind, which I find very appealing, that there's a lot of sense to it. But then again, that's deliberate movement, right?
Yes, yes. That's a kind of enforced practice, and that doesn't have any value. If it becomes a mechanical repetition, it becomes a mechanical repetition in our life, then it's another load that we are subjecting ourselves to.
So people who are in sedentary lifestyle, which is most of us now,
Yes.
in the cities at least,
Hmm.
what would you ask them to like do?
Why are we leading a sedentary life?
Asking.
Why are we leading a sedentary life? Can we
Okay.
ask that? Because that will topple the foundation, you know, because behind the sedentary lifestyle, a lot of depleted aspect of energy is hidden. Can we topple that? Can we question that? Why are we continuing this slavery of sedentary lifestyle? Instead of doing that, to escape the impact of sedentary lifestyle, we try to compensate extra exercise on the name of yoga classes in the morning. It is useless, actually. It is just a time pass.
So movement also has to come naturally, right?
Yes, movement
Inbuilt
must come
Look at kids,
naturally.
they just can't sit still.
This compensatory uh, exercises and compensatory movements are nothing but escaping the root cause. Can we just question the root cause? Do we have the strength to question ourselves that why are we leading a sedentary life? Why are we sitting idle?
If it's a work requirement, like, I mean, yeah, that's,
yes, what
it's
is the
well
basis of the work? Can we question that? The kind
it's
of
my livelihood.
Yes, that livelihood. Why the lacks of species in this universe are not concerned about their livelihood? Why are just human beings concerned for their livelihood?
Because we need
we need luxury. We don't need a survival. There is no survival concern due to which we choose a job. We go for a job. It's for luxury. We go for a job. We actually bluff ourselves on the name of survival. It's not the survival concern.
For many, it is also the necessity of survival. It's not only about luxury.
See, the basic difference between other species and human being is we have the family structure. We have a solid home, like birds. They build a home every time they lay eggs, and then next year again they'll build
homes. We build palaces, na? That's the issue.
Sorry, I didn't get your statement.
We are not building homes for living. We are building palaces, aren't we?
Okay, that could be
that's the question, you know, because the point is not we don't need a home. We need a home.
Still we would have certain needs, right? I mean, still we will have certain basic needs for which
understand the difference between a need and a want.
Okay, what if I like what I do? The sedentary lifestyle is the root of that. So if say I'm into some profession,
why do I like what I do? Why do I like what I do?
I just get connected to the work. I get satisfaction by doing that work. I'm happy when I do that work.
Can I question if there is some consideration, there is some imagery, there is some goal that is formed in the mind? I'm just questioning. I don't know. Why do I like what I work, what I do? Whether there is some subtle obsession operating. What is this liking? Am I hiding that obsession on the name of liking? All these questions, you know, it's a very frank question, because you are naked to yourself. You know, you are just exploring yourself. You need not to establish yourself in front of someone, justifying yourself, but just to know yourself, whether you are operating a real life or an artificial life. All these things will reveal a lot of things. You know, it's not just a sedentary lifestyle. There are a lot of things underlying which are unexplored, which remained unexplored under the influence of multiple ideas that are influencing our life.
So will you be left alone on this path and your family doesn't agree with your lifestyle and your choices and the way you want to live?
The
Will there be a
bigger
disconnect?
question is, am I scared to be alone?
Yeah.
And if so,
And so what?
why? So all these questions are very pertinent question to enhance the natural life, which will, as a byproduct, enhance the natural life. Yes,
So Jyoti has
Jyoti.
raised her hand.
Yes, Jyoti, please.
Sir, how to understand family? What about family concept?
Family is largely a psychological creation. You know, there is no, yes, what is truth is your children. It's a biology. But otherwise, the stories around the family and the tradition, culture, all these are carried by the family is basically burden. So can we look at the family without much of botheration, without any fixation that I must carry the tradition of my family? It's a very burdensome thing, you know, to carry forward a tradition of the family.
Because it is mechanical.
And this doesn't bring any value to the life.
Yeah.
It's a just imagination that we are carrying forward on the name of tradition, culture, family.
Yeah, but what about children? So children see the treatment.
Children are not a burden,
Hmm.
unless we are considering. And it's not so-called quote unquote responsibility either.
Sir,
Do I
children see
consider
responsibility.
I am responsible to maintain my hand? Is it a
No.
burden?
No.
So children are such. It's a part of your body, just that they are growing, being apart from the body. It's a beautiful journey. Seeing your body parts growing without being physically connected to your body. How can it be a burden?
But sir, how to understand?
The burden comes with a lot of ideation, you know, that I must do these things to meet my responsibility towards children. All these stories, traditional stories that we already have fed ourselves.
So what is your responsibility in this case?
Responsibility is an
Responsibility
imagination. There is no
towards
responsibility
children.
as such. Yes, towards anything. The duties, responsibilities are the imaginary consideration.
So actually, it's not as if we don't have to do anything. But whatever is happening,
So whatever we are
naturally,
discussing here is the psychological space. Let's try and
yes.
understand. There is no cessation of action being proposed. But the kind of burden that we have put in our psychological space, that thing only being discussed. Yeah, let's quickly cover these
Finish.
factors. Yeah, the sleep is a natural way to rest ourselves, primarily physical and psychological rest. Physiological rest doesn't happen during the sleep, but it's very predominant rather during the sleep. So every imbalancing things are getting settled during the sleep physiologically. So rest in tiredness and ideally in the natural darkness. That's a natural phenomena that can be observed in nature, that most of the organisms, they rest in natural darkness when there is absence of sunlight. Now, what are the ideated influences that may affect our energy level, lead us to innervation? Could be obsessive use of artificial lights. Obsessive use of artificial lights. So in natural darkness, whenever we are actually using artificial light, we are confusing our body. And there are researches also which proposes that a lot of organisms got extincted because of the introduction of artificial light, because it created havoc toll for their existence. It's a confusion whether it is a natural light or an artificial light. And the body starts responding in the presence of light. So this must be understood. And another aspect is induced sleep. If we are deprived of sleep, then in the daytime to sleep, many times we use some sleep inducer in form of chemical or environmental use of ACs is also a sleep enhancer. So both way, through idea, we may impact natural sleep. Jyoti, you have just raised hand, or it's a previous raising hand, which is?
It's a previous.
Okay, previous one. So this was the sixth factor. Now the seventh factor is another very important factor, which is sex. The perversion in sexual understanding is one of the primary depleter of energy for the current generation. So the misunderstanding of natural sex. In nature, the sex is an emerged out of consistent physical proximity between the partners. So when we deny this natural aspect of the sex, then we become obsessed about sex. We make sex as a planned act, an act out of an opportunity. I get a chance to have sex, let's have sex. These kind of ideations, these are highly depleting for the individual who considers these illusions as facts. On the other hand, there is another extreme, which is abstinence through enforced celibacy, where the sex is viewed negatively and one is enforced to avoid sex, maybe through his own exploration, thoughts, external knowledge, or through some regime, through some cult. So this way, actually, we deplete a lot of energy in this factor of sex as well. We can explore a lot of things further. These are just the cues to explore. By the way, we'll share these PDFs in the WhatsApp group so that you can keep it for reference and raise your questions in the group as well. Finally, the eighth factor is the mind, and on the mind, since yesterday we are discussing that if the mind is formed out of body, which is P1, then it's a rational inquiring mind. If the mind is formed by the mind, so perceptory predominance is creating the mind, then it is an unrested mind, an innervated mind. So we need to explore that aspect. Finally, with two sensational illustration, The beliefs, disbeliefs, hatred, appreciation, excitement, depressions, these are actually inquiry blockers. So in this particular illustration, you see the fonts of belief, appreciation, excitement, disbelief, hatred, depression are bigger, which is actually narrowing this particular channel, which is a channel of inquisition, observation, conservation, leading to awareness, natural movement, and freedom. Whenever the beliefs, disbelief, hatred, appreciation, depression, excitements are dropping, the narrow space becomes broadened. And we see the bigger font for inquisition, observation, conservation, awareness, natural movement, and freedom. So with that note, we conclude the content part. We can have some conversation around these. Finally, a little mention about the commercial aspect that as it is mentioned, it is mentioned on our workshop details that this is not a free workshop. So because we don't want to deny the current implication of money in our day-to-day life. And yeah, and it is not priced either, because we don't want to block anyone to be included in this conversation on the basis of money. And we don't want to estimate or justify our work also, or if we call it service, or the action rather. That's one thing. And another assurance that we offer from ourselves, that we don't question, will not question whatsoever is your decision of deciding a price. So we propose that participants may decide a price and pay their contribution. So this is a QR code which can be used to pay. So we'll not be able to give any hint, and will obviously not question the decision. So with that, we would.
Kalan, is there any GPay or a bank transfer or a phone number transfer, UPI, that I can do?
Yes. So GPay can be. Yes. So that's my phone number, which has a GPay. So that can be used. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll mention that. WhatsApp. Yeah. Great. So yes, further we can explore whatsoever is coming to the mind, because I know that it is overwhelming for those who are considering this is a new kind of proposal. A lot of questions might be coming. Love to hear some of them, if possible. We have around 8 to 9 minutes.
One thing I want to know, Kalyan, is like every
Can you come a little near to the phone?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
One thing that I want to understand is like, supposing we take the sleep aspect of it.
Sleep.
So there are people, I'm sorry, there's a lot of disturbing speeches there.
No problem.
So there are people like who are like sleepy all the time, or then there are people who will sleep for 10 hours and they wake up and then say, I've not slept enough, I don't feel refreshed. And then there are people who just sleep for 6 hours and they jump out of bed and they are running all around. What I want to inquire is into this aspect of health. If I make also that one aspect of health, keeping good health, is a good sleep, deep sleep. And but it varies very individually. Obviously, everything varies individually. So what kind of role does it play? And like you said, what I really liked about exercise is why sedentary lifestyle. So the inquiry would also be into why disturbed sleep.
Yes. Why at all
Get
the
back
sleep
into
is
the why
disturbed.
of everything,
Yes, yes.
right?
That will lead to a lot of revelation, you know. It's not a single factor that is affecting our health. So
Or whatever.
sleep may be just manifestation that we have a deprived sleep pattern. But that's not the end of the story. The lot of things are underneath, like in case of sedentaries, as you rightly pointed out. So these kind of exploration will lead us to explore a lot of truth.
My second question was on spirituality,
Yes.
the spiritual aspect of national hygiene. So, you know, what we've learned about dharma, or there seems to be so many things about religion is separate and spirituality is separate. And I'm like, if mind, body, spirit are one. So what is spirituality and what is religion? It's just life living itself. But these very aspects of like post chanting, for example, I've been practicing Buddhism for a very long time. So the whole aspect of that, like, you know, what I've gone into the depth of it is when, and then there's Vipassana. These are two different like kind of things. Here you are completely silent and observant. And in chanting, you are chanting with your eyes open and being present in the moment. So there, for me, there seems to be a little bit of confusion in that. And as to understand what is spirituality and dharma, I don't believe in karma, nothing of that kind. But what is spirituality? What do we term as spirituality? And what is the aspect or the impact that has on our living, on our being rather than that?
Yeah,
I hope I
Minu
made my
unmuted to respond. Minu?
Sapna, when you ask this question, what do you mean by spirituality? You must be having some understanding of what it is. Like that's where the question arises from, is it?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
what? Can you share that a little bit?
That was
what do you think so far? What it is?
Yeah, the quest arose actually when I was 7-year-old, and this this inquiry into life and its purpose, and is there a purpose to life? What is there beyond life, and what is it that drives this life? Is there you know a thread through it, if I may call it that, or you hear these different concepts of this is a temporary phase about life and death and reincarnation and karma and a lot of stuff like, you know, that you are born with a certain aspect because you have the karma, and then you start wondering what is karma, and if it dampens, it messes up your life, then how do I get out of that? And that's when, and then when I came into this realm of natural hygiene, where, you know, it all kind of like blended together. But I've been left wondering about when I talk about Vipassana, when they say there's just a mind stream and then there's physical aspect. So when we're talking about a child learns on its own or her own, and where does all that inherent intelligence come from? How does an organism come into being? And how does an organism decide when it's time to leave? Or does it even decide? Or can it even be comprehended in natural? I want to understand it from natural hygiene perspective. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, perhaps the natural life, if we explore, that could be an ideal spirituality exploration, perhaps. I'm not trying to conclude it at this point, but if it is under some condition happening, then spirituality is also a pseudo sense of life that we experience. So as it is spontaneous, it could be considered as spiritual, in short. If it is not spontaneous, then it's something pseudo, perhaps. Any other inputs? We have around a minute time in this session. Thanks a lot for your kind participation. And yeah, appreciate. Yeah, Jyoti ji, please.
सर आप विपश्यना और वो सब के बारे में कुछ बोल रहे थे, वो मैं प्रॉपर सुना नहीं।
हाँ, वो
कुछ
आई
ऐसे थोड़ी
थिंक और टाइम नहीं है ज़्यादा डीप जाने के लिए, बट विपासना का जो सेंसेशन ऑब्जर्वेशन का जो एस्पेक्ट है, अगर आप विपासना किए हो या थोड़ा बहुत जानते हो तो
नहीं किया नहीं।
उसमें उसके साथ ये अंडरस्टैंडिंग का थोड़ा बहुत सिमिलरिटी है, थोड़ा बहुत इन्फ्लुएंस है।
विपश्यना नहीं किया मैंने, नहीं किया।
अच्छा अच्छा, फिर कभी डिटेल में बात करेंगे अगर थोड़ा इसका अंडरस्टैंडिंग में कुछ इफेक्ट आए अपना क्लैरिटी में। तो फॉर नाउ, थैंक्स ऑल फॉर ज्वाइनिंग. Good day, and
Thank you, sir.
we'll.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yes,
And
always. Thank you so much.
there is a small alumni group. We'll share that link. You may opt to join.
Yeah.
So that we can continue our